Please welcome Mary Lee, Director, Community Service Division, Department of County Human Services, Multnomah County, Portland, Oregon.
Great, I'm going to see if we can get our first slide up. Oh, sorry. Okay, here we go. The Chinese people invented bureaucracy 200 years ago. You should be proud to be a bureaucrat. All right, everyone take that in for a minute, right? Cultural imperative. This bit of wisdom was given to me by my father, Paul Lee, many years ago when I was first going to start working at Multnomah County. I was young and fresh out of college and feminist work to end the violence against women, the domestic and sexual violence, and I was lamenting the fact that I was leaving my grassroots organizing to go work for the man. Here's my dad, who spent his career in California working for the state, educating judges. So from him. Even to then, the government did not enjoy a shiny cachet, right? People didn't want to say we worked for the government. And today, only 19% of us trust the federal government to do what's right most of the time, or at least some of the time. Now, in local county government, I might fare a little better, but we're just talking single digits, right? Nobody thinks it's a great job to work for the government. But today, I want to ask you to help me reframe and reclaim what it means to be a bureaucrat, what it means to work in government, and how to be proud about that, even if you're not Chinese and you're not a bureaucrat. That I offer you these thoughts today in our nation's capital, well, there are no accidents, right? This talk, this love letter to bureaucracy, is meant for all the bureaucrats out there in the audience and anybody who loves a bureaucrat. Raise your hand if you're a bureaucrat or you love a bureaucrat. All right, come on. All right, so that was a little weak, people, but by the end of this, I'm going to want to see everybody's hand upraised. So when they do these TED Talks, they tell you, well, you've got to go find pictures. So I am a bureaucrat. I obey rules at least some of the time. And I went to the internet to find pictures of good bureaucrats and tell you this is what I found. Exactly that, right? There isn't a good comic or even a positive depiction. Ask someone to describe a bureaucrat, and you're more than likely to hear negative characterizations of our motivations, our commitment, our capacity, our results, which I will not repeat here today. Perhaps as a result of having internalized these negative messages about who we are as bureaucrats, how we show up in our work, some of us have lost a sense of urgency, have lost a sense of belief in what's possible, have lost the understanding that what we do as bureaucrats does matter, and as a result are living a life of learned helplessness and perhaps hopelessness. I've had many discussions in my career that start with how we're going to end homelessness in spite of the government. And I want to tell you right now that not only will we not end homelessness in spite of the government, we will only end homelessness when government and bureaucrats are in collective shared leadership with us to do that work. So am I naive, uninformed, living dangerously out of touch with reality? Some might say so. Some might also say, Mary's World is a nice place to visit, but you really can't live there for very long. But no, my assertion is completely based in my own experience and that of my colleagues, our lived experience as bureaucrats. So let me give you a couple examples from Portland, Oregon. At the beginning of the recession, when it became clear that this just wasn't going to be a blip on the screen, there were a lot of conversations about we needed to get small, we needed to hunker down, we needed to make sure that base funding didn't get cut. We made a decision to say exactly the opposite, that the recession was not only the best time to maintain our investments, but actually we needed to be bigger and bolder. We needed to call for more investment for services for people. As a result, our local county government, every year since then, has increased their investment in services for folks who are homeless, millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. For the past 15 years, our homeless youth system has been a single integrated, coordinated system, and we don't make the decisions about who gets contracts or how much money they get in those contracts or for what services. The providers make those decisions with us. So we sit down at a table, we discuss what our shared interests are, what our shared goals are, and then we contract based on those mutual decisions. We make those decisions together. We have learned that we had to radically remake our relationship with the people that we serve, with ourselves, with our systems of care, into ones that were based in hope and a belief that people actually can change. As a result, next year, we will no longer purchase any case management services for our homeless systems of care or anti-poverty systems of care. We will only purchase what we call assertive engagement. We will no longer spend $1 of county money on case management. Because we understand the disproportionality for people of color and refugee and immigrant folks, we know that we have to put resources to that. As a result, our base funding formula for our anti-poverty programs mandate that 1/3 of every dollar has to go to culturally specific organizations for culturally specific services, and those are defined as services that are by, for, and about the people who are being served. And finally, 6 months ago, we enrolled our redesign of our homeless family system, and it has all the bells and whistles, coordinated entry, shared data source, flexible client service funds. But what's most thrilling about that to me is that we have mandated that decision-making about resources be in the hands of the workers. So our contracts require agencies to outfit their workers with the ability to make instantaneous decisions about resources, rent, deposits, flexible funding sources. And at the same time, we've told them that we expect them to potentially fail as much as 20% of the time. Not because we don't think they can do good work, but because we believe if we're not experiencing failure, we're probably not taking risks, we're probably not working with the families who are most vulnerable, and we certainly aren't learning as much as we can learn. Now, I'll tell you, we got a lot of pushback from our agencies on that, and I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to report on our end-of-the-year statistics to our board, but I'm sure it's all going to work out. Or you'll hear about it later, right? So in the spirit of bureaucratic efficiency and the brilliance of checklists, right? Checklists work for surgeons and for pilots. They can certainly work for bureaucrats. I've distilled this learning, what we've learned with these many examples, into 5 steps. So here they are. The checklist for bureaucrats and those who love them, which should be everybody in this audience, who want to transform themselves in the world. Step 1, speak to the common good. We're engaged in work that is bigger than ourselves, and we sometimes forget that. Remember to always lead from your mission and values first. Step 2, model hope. We know that research says it's a critical component in behavior change for the people with whom we're working. It's also critical for us. Step 3, this is a hard one, show your vulnerability. Show up for work every day with love and compassion. It matters. Lead with your heart openly, unapologetically, and with a sense of joy. Seek creativity and innovation, not just for its own sake, but because it gets better results, and a side benefit, it's better for you, for your health and for your well-being. And finally, take risks. Our work as bureaucrats is actually life and death in terms of its impact. If we don't understand this and act from it, we are not doing our jobs. Don't let anyone blunt your sense of urgency. This then is my vision for the transformation of bureaucrats and the bureaucracy. And certainly it's not easy first, but here's the infomercial. With daily practice, it can become second nature, and it will transform who you are as a bureaucrat in the bureaucracy. And when that happens, we will all be that much further in our work to end homelessness. To those of you who are advocates and service providers, I ask you to expect us to be different, to hold us accountable, and to support us in our efforts to transform. Love us enough to do that. This is not work for the faint-hearted. And I use the word love in the same way that Senator Booker used it yesterday. To my sister and fellow bureaucrats, we do have a choice about how we show up in our work. Despite the many challenges associated with working for government, we can effectively fight against inertia and cynicism and political expediency. In fact, as public servants, regardless of political affiliation, this is our job. The next time someone asks if you are a bureaucrat or if you love one, I hope you will all proudly raise your hands. And lest someone leave disappointed that I didn't address politics, I leave you with this quote by Alex Steffen. Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy for us to think nothing is going to get any better. Cynicism is obedience. And as my father would tell you if he were still here, he would tell you I wasn't a really very obedient child. But as it relates to my work as a bureaucrat, I hope never to be. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story with you today.
I have to be on the 2 o'clock train.
Thank you, Mary.